Did we have any public that wanted to speak today, Steph?
Nope. Oh, nope. There was someone called admin coming on, but they're not here anymore. Nope.
I think admin is Jody Lorenz.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Thank you.
Did you have any feedback from Kirsten? Who
No.
else are we missing?
Kirsten and Wolfgang were the only ones. No, I did not.
Right. Have you had any chat with Wolfgang at all? I wonder if he has the
Wolfgang
up on
doesn't
Zoom.
have, he'd have to be in his office and get somebody to set up Zoom for him.
Right.
Yeah. He
I guess we
probably
should.
told me about 6 months ago that he'd gotten rid of his laptop.
Oh,
Right.
really? Yeah, I did that with Rondi. If I just phoned Oitis, and Oitis sent her daughter over, ran across the yard and set him up, and that was successful. I don't have a connection like that with Wolfgang.
Actually, I've been on a Zoom call with him recently, and he just
okay.
used his iPad. He seemed to be okay on his own.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Okay. Well, I guess we shall get going then. And is Jody still trying to get in?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, well, she emailed me. I'm telling her to try again.
Sorry, I'm a little bit behind here this morning. I've been out and around and just got back. Okay, so do we have any late items?
No, only thing is, Allison provided me with good feedback about the budget, so I made some adjustments to that, but we don't need to attach.
Okay. So can we have a motion to approve our agenda? Okay, Allison's got her hand up, and Natasha can second, and all in favor. I guess we can just show our hands in the window here. Ed, are you in favor? Yep. Okay, good. Then we'll move on to adoption of our minutes of our April 27th Community Economic Development Committee meeting. And we have a recommendation in here to accept them. Anyone
I'll
want
move
to?
adoption.
Allison, and I can second that. And all in favor? Okay,
Aye.
put our hands up. Great, all in favor. And public comments. I think we don't have any public comments this morning. So action items on page 9. Do we want to share that in front of people, or has everyone got a copy of the agenda in front of them? Okay, so if you just go to page 9.
These are old.
So we're just, should we just do a clearing of this list then? Or are these things still on here? We've got, yeah, the rural dividend item, I don't think that's relevant anymore, is it? Toilet facilities, well, that's not, yeah, we can take that off there at this point. At least that discussion with Helen and Jody and the
And
community.
then number 3, I'm gonna follow up with this. I'm gonna take that
Okay.
one.
I'm sure Jody must have done number 4. And
Yeah,
I actually found all my electronic stuff, and I thought I had passed it on. So
yeah, I think we can take that one off as well.
Yeah.
Number 5 are off.
Yeah.
Okay.
I found some film stuff and cleaning out my office because I've had nothing else to do, right?
Okay. I don't think that's a thing right now. Maybe we,
I'm gonna be filming.
I'm gonna take that off.
Okay,
Sorry, Rod, can we just go back to number 5?
Yes.
The electronic version of the report. Did that get circulated to committee members?
Well, I found it and I think it's actually, and I was gonna go and check again, actually on the website because it was a report made to council. And Helen has it electronically and she was referenced it in the findings report. That's where some of her references to the OCP and land use bylaw came from. But we'll get it to you.
Yeah, well, could I ask that it be circulated to the committee?
Yeah, as I say, I think it's already on the website, but I will check again
Thank you.
from years
great.
ago.
Thanks, Allison. Um, That action item, Steph, about the problems, challenges, priorities of the various committees. I think we should just leave that on there for now.
Yeah.
Community futures. I think we need to take that action item
Okay.
and that needs to be revisited in a different way.
Okay. Yeah, these are old and yeah.
Yeah, and the buy local working group. I mean, we've already approved that for now, so I think that action item comes off, right?
Oh, I think what happened there was it was sort of go time for the fall winter program. And there was sort of a very brief discussion in the meeting and then people had tons of ideas, but we didn't have time to implement them. And so I just ran basically the same campaign again.
Right.
Identical, except a couple of images. And so the idea was if people have feedback, we need to get started earlier. So that's what the May thing was. If we take it off, it'll probably just be me jumping on Sophie's desk. But if there are ideas, we need to sort of start before like in the summer and not,
That's to coordinate it with the buy local campaign that we actually
just to
participation in.
like ideas, fleshing it out. If there are any ideas, they need to come early. So I think maybe idea. Is that Maureen?
Yeah, I don't think we need it as an action item though, do we? Not right now.
Could I suggest that it might be an idea to bring it up at the Wednesday morning Zoom meetings with businesses? Because they've experienced some real changes in the nature of buying local. And if we're planning on the campaign again, which we are, we now have a pretty ready venue to get input from local businesses. So why not add it to the agenda for one of those Wednesday mornings?
Okay, well then I hear that loud and clear. So what about
So that's a new action. Got it.
what could we present? Like, Steph, are you in the do you have the information that's needed to present an update to that to our group? Like, could we just have a 3-minute update with 2 slides on this Wednesday morning?
Sure.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Sure.
So let's change that to Steph to prepare 2 slides for this Wednesday morning's meetup.
Will do. Okay.
And tie it into the gift certificate program?
Yeah, I think that it would be a good thing to do, again, to reiterate what the CEDC is doing for the business community right now, and let people know. And then we can open that discussion up to gift certificates as well as signage and other local things that we're talking about right now.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so that cleans up our action items, I believe, and gives us room to create some new action items as we go along here. So shall we ask Emma to start in with her bylaw amendment, short-term rental policy?
Sure.
Is that my cue?
Yeah, and I've given you sharing capabilities. So, hi, Emma.
Hi. So can everyone see the slide?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Um, uh, Good morning, everyone. And I'm going to be presenting on the short-term rental bylaw amendments today. Just going to give you a quick recap of the background and then a summary of the amendments for comment. On Bowen Island, the only type of short-term rentals that have been allowed are bed and breakfasts as home occupation. That means it's run by a resident of the home and the entire house cannot be used for short-term rental. This use is allowed as an accessory use on all residential lots on Bowen Island, as shown in the orange here, which is pretty much all the developed area on the island. There are also more intensive short-term accommodation use, such as commercial guest accommodation, guest house, inn, retreat center, and these are considered commercial in commercial zones, and they are not the focus of the policy or the bylaw amendments that will be discussed. The focus of the policy and the amendments is short-term rental use of residential properties. And this type of short-term rental use has been on Bowen Island for a long time, but in the past decade or so, we have seen it increase significantly due to the popularity of online short-term rental platforms like Airbnb. And we've familiar with their importance, providing accommodations for visitors and temporary workers, and really important supplementary income for homeowners. But there's also a lot of growing concerns on impacts on the community, such as the reducing affordability or availability of long-term rental housing stock and impacting servicing infrastructure, as well as causing safety and nuisance concerns in communities. So last year, Council directed staff to undertake a policy development project so that we can establish a regulatory approach for short-term rentals, that they will be operated responsibly and fairly across the island while mitigating negative impacts for the community. Council adopted the short-term rental policy end of last year and directed staff to prepare bylaw amendments to help implement this policy. So the amendments will be to the land use bylaw, business license bylaw, and bylaw notice enforcement bylaw. The key objectives of the policy is to allow short-term rental on the island. This is short-term rental of entire dwellings, but that it be kept as an accessory use, and that regulations be put in place to make sure this use does not impact neighborhoods, and also to ensure accountability of operators. And very importantly, those regulations need to be enforceable. So just keeping those key objectives on the side so that they're top of mind as we go through the amendments and understand why we're making the amendments. Firstly, to permit short-term rental use, the land use bylaw will be amended to include residential guest accommodation use. This is defined as an accessory use of a dwelling unit that is ordinarily occupied as a residence. And the use is for temporary accommodations of a paying guest for a period of less than 30 days. This use is distinct and separate from the bed and breakfast use that was mentioned earlier, as well as the commercial options that we just discussed. This bylaw amendment will also allow limited kitchen facilities and bed and breakfast. So this is mini fridge and countertop plug-in appliances. And this is in addition to what is allowed right now, which is no kitchen facilities whatsoever. This change was made to help bed and breakfasts maintain competitiveness as residential guest accommodations become permitted, where they are entire dwelling units containing full kitchens. Both residential guest accommodations and bed and breakfasts will be allowed on properties with secondary suites and detached secondary suites. And this was a very important change that came out of the community feedback to allow homeowners more flexibility in the use of their properties, as well as helping to preserve potential long-term rental units. So people don't feel they have to decommission their units, such as takeout kitchens, to enable short-term rental use. There will also be use-specific regulations added for residential guest accommodations. Mainly, this will be limiting the use up to 120 days a year, maximum of 2 guests per bedroom, and a minimum of 1 parking space per bedroom. These types of regulations are to help ensure that the use is accessory to the principal use of residence, and also to help mitigate those negative neighborhood impacts. Further regulations are going to be put in place through the business licensing bylaw amendment, where residential guest accommodations will require a business license to operate. They will need to display that license in all advertising and provide proof of adequate insurance, as well as disclose number of bedrooms, guests, and parking that will be used for the residential guest accommodation. All of this information is important in making sure that the regulations may be enforced. This amendment will also include a license fee of $300, and this is based on research of 11 different communities, comparable communities, as well as estimated costs of administration and enforcement for this license. And one of the key terms of operation in this business license for residential guest accommodation is that a designated individual must be specified. They will act as the primary contact for the operation, and they must be available 24/7 during operations and respond to any nuisance complaints within 2 hours. And lastly, the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw will be amended to include a penalty for operating a residential guest accommodation without a license. The first penalty will be more of a warning, whereas further penalties will impose a maximum fine of $500 per day. This bylaw already contains existing penalties for advertising without showing your license, as well as penalties for contraventions of any of the regulations. So that sums up all of the amendments. And at this point, open to questions and comments. Specifically, do you feel the amendments meet the objectives of the short-term rental policy? And do they help to facilitate community economic development through regulated use of residential guest accommodations?
Okay, so I invite you to we're a fairly small group, and if you have a comment, to open your mic and unmute yourself. Also, I have the chat window open, so if you want to type something in, a thought or a discussion to record with the meeting, you can do that too.
One question. The designated individual who has to be responsible, that does not need to be an owner, am I correct? Thank you.
Oh, hello, sorry, was
Yeah,
I
there you
muted?
go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said the
yes.
designated individual does not necessarily have to be an owner. It can be someone who is available, almost like a manager.
Yes, exactly. It definitely does not need to be the owner. It just needs to be someone that is legally authorized by the property owner.
On island?
Part of the terms of operation is that the designated individual is available 24/7 on the island.
Thank you. Okay.
Emma, it doesn't say on the island in the regulation or the bylaw. It just says available 24/7. And so does that mean in person or by telephone?
In person.
Well, then I think you have to clarify that it has to be available in person.
Okay.
Steph?
Yes.
Steph, if I could ask Emma, because I've been through Emma, last week you had an open house, or you had an event for people to comment on this subject. And I believe there was somewhere in the region of 25 participants. I've just got the video of it.